Hello and welcome to Off the Beaten Tracks, where the choking smell of sulfur permeates the air. So we're back, and I have been nominated by Randall Weaver. I've got his channel at the bottom if you want to check him out. Great guy. If you want to know anything about the Grateful Dead, Randall Weaver is your source. He has nominated me for a competition from Rob, the Happy Hippy, and glad to do it. Favorite book? I'm going to go with two here. My first one is I Am Ozzy Osbourne. Number one, I really like Ozzy as an artist, from Black Sabbath through a lot of his solo work, and I've actually seen Ozzy in concert, imploring everybody to go fucking crazy. And what I liked about it is the warts are there. He didn't try to whitewash over anything. He, put out his deplorable socks and hung them on the line for everyone to see. My second one is Richard Rodgers, and his book is Musical Stages. And I remember reading this as a youth and thinking, what a great guy he was, and what a world he lived in. And it was a tremendous time for music and getting into Broadway and all his successes and trying to keep Loren's heart under control. And then I find out that Richard Rodgers is a complete and fucking asshole. He's just a jerk. There was a particular morning show that had the daughters, after Richard's passing, were on the show, and they were selling some of Richard's artwork collection at auction. And I was wondering why these daughters were going to sell away these memories for money, because the Richard Rodgers catalog is worth millions, so they could never be short of a nickel. And after reading this article about what a terrible person he was and how horrible and crazy his wife was, it occurred to me that the daughters weren't doing it for the money. They were doing it to get rid of those memories. So those are the two juxtaposition. The guy who is probably a pretty good guy, who led a less than exemplary life, admitting all his problems. And then Richard Rodgers, who looks like a great guy and presents himself as a great guy, but was really a prick. Next, I'm going to be doing music video. And my favorite music video / movie probably is Festival Express. It's a very unique project. It was put together back in '69. A guy named Willem Pullman got this idea. There was a lot of these big festivals, Woodstock and the like, going on, and he decided he was going to put everybody on trains so that rather than people coming to a concert like Woodstock, the concert would come to you. So he got this big train and put on, I'll give you some of the names here, the Grateful Dead, the Band, Mash McCann, Buddy Guy, Flying Burrito Brothers, Janis Joplin, Edie and Sylvia, Delaney and Bonnie. And he put them all on his train and others. And he would go from city to city to city, and they would stop the train, get out, do a concert, get back in, and go off. And a true visionary, he decided he was going to film it. So he had a camera crew along, and there was a problem because a train was enormously expensive to rent, and all the equipment and everything. And after Woodstock, the public at large had decided that rock and roll music should be music of the people and should be free. Except the train and all these bands cost a fortune, and everybody was breaking into these concerts for nothing. And it was supposed to go, I think, it actually lasted 3 concerts. It was going to be 5 or 6, but everything absolutely collapsed in the middle. So what happens is these canisters of film end up in Pullman's garage for 30 years, being used by his kids growing up as goalposts for hockey games and things, until one day somebody comes looking and finds these canisters and puts this movie together. And not only does it have unbelievable sound. I mean, for the time, this is just crystal clear stuff. The band and the Grateful Dead and all, beautiful stuff. But not only the performances, but there's jams. They would jam together. So you'd have Janis Joplin and people from the band and a couple of guys from the Grateful Dead, or maybe Delaney and Bonnie or Buddy Guy. They'd all be sitting around in these little club cars, and they would be singing songs, mixing up all the musicians and having a great time and having a drink and a smoke. And it's just wonderful. I mean, it's just magical. The next piece I'm supposed to discuss is record stores. Now, I've been a bit bi-coastal lately because I lived in LA for a million years, and now I live in Toronto, and I kind of go back and forth. So I'm going to do 2 record stores. My first would be in LA, and it's Record Surplus, which is now in Santa Monica. And I've shopped there for 30 years when they were on Pico. Great store in Pico. Nice little store now that they have on Santa Monica Boulevard. And it's got great bins of dollars. And what really separates a great record store, I think, from just the average, and I'm talking used records mostly here, is the quality of the vinyl that they choose to put out. Anybody can buy massive collections, but, that was the problem with Amoeba. Amoeba had great selection, but the quality level could be good, could be, skated on. It just didn't have any real quality control. Far more often than not, when you pick that record up and you'd really like that record, there's nothing more than, you've been looking for a record for, say, several years, and you see a nice used copy in the bins, and it looks really good, and you're so happy, and you take it out, and you can't buy it because it looks like shit once you open it up. Those disappointments you don't have as much at a place like Record Surplus, because they really do quality control there. My second store is Cops, which is here in Toronto. There's one on Queen Street and one on the Danforth are the 2 I mostly gravitate to at the moment, though there is one in Oshawa and a couple of others. Again, very interesting dollar bins they've got. I've picked up a lot of great records in their $2 bins. And they have nice selections of Canadiana. And for the last thing I'm supposed to produce today was a record I bought recently. And I'm going to nominate this one as being one of my favorites recently. This is Black YaYa. This is the solo debut from David Ivar of Herman Dune. I hadn't heard of Herman Dune. Apparently they're a French band. I looked them up on Discogs, and unfortunately all the vinyl I could see had to be shipped from Europe, so I'm thinking, I haven't got anything yet, but I love this album. It's kind of quirky pop. I'll put a couple of things at the bottom after the description so you can hear a couple of the songs. It's been described a little bit as Jonathan Richman, and you can certainly see a certain quality in his voice, and there's a certain childlike innocence to some of the songs. But this is a richer musically, and I think a little more pop-oriented than Mr. Richmond's stuff is. I really like this. The opening track, "Flying a Rocket," you get it's poppy, it's catchy, but it's a little eccentric. There's something just a little different about it. I would give this "Under My Skin," another great song. I would give this an 8.5. I think this is a really, really good. It's a blind buy, and I'm really, really happy that I got this. The last thing we're supposed to do is to nominate somebody to enter the competition and possibly win a second prize. And I'm going to nominate Emma from 8 Vinyl Low to try her luck at this. Mainly because, there aren't a lot of women in the vinyl community, as there aren't in record stores. I mean, the great thing is if you're married and your wife doesn't want you to cheat on her, get him into records, because he'll never see a woman anywhere once he's flipping through those bins. I would like to see more. This is a different perspective, and she has some great taste. She loves blues. She loves British blues especially, which is one of my favorites. Cheap Trick is another big group with her. So I think she would have something great to add to this competition. Her link will be at the bottom. You should check her out. Great stuff. She has a nice presentation, far more easy and down to earth than my own. And that's it. I hope somebody worthy wins this thing, and let's go on from there. Happy Hippy, Rob. Congratulations at 420. Last time I looked, you were up to 441 or something, and rising ever higher. Bye-bye.
Okay. Okay.